Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Backlot Box Office brought to you by Backlot 605. I'm your host, Brian Mensing, and joining me as always is our resident historian and coming soon expert, Derrick Veurink. How are you doing this evening?
Pretty good, Brian. You?
I guess I can't complain. I'd say we've had a pretty interesting week this week here. We didn't really have anything really big going on this week that from what I could see kind of going on, and then nothing big and huge like we had with Eternals and Dune and everything like that's kind of a quiet week this week.
Well, there is something that's big and red, but we'll get into that.
Well, I suppose there is that. So yeah, I guess you're right. So
Dun-dun-dun.
that being said, we're gonna jump into the box office this week. Coming in at number one as expected here, the Eternals with $27.5 million, taking a 61% dip, which, I mean, I guess, when you're kind of used to what you kind of expect to see with first and second week stuff, this is kind of semi the norm, 50, 60%. So I'd say we're kind of on par.
Yeah, I would say this is pretty good, actually.
Hmm.
Given what we talked about last week with the mixed word of mouth, and the fear was that it might plummet off a cliff. It
Hmm.
didn't do that. Actually, back in July, Black Widow had a bigger drop. It dropped 68% in its
Hmm.
second weekend. But it also had bigger competition from Space Jam 2, and it was also one of those Disney Plus dual releases as well. So
Right.
that all kind of contributed to it. So because Eternals, of course, is still straight theatrical for at least 45 days, it's got quite the bit of cushion for that. So
Hmm.
by my perspective, it's doing pretty well.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. I kind of wonder what uh, being said now that we're past the Disney Plus day kind of thing, and now that we have Shang-Chi, if how much that might have an impact to those that didn't go see it in theater. They're like, if I'm gonna get a Marvel movie, I'll get this second newest one. Now that I've got Disney Plus, I'm kind of curious to see what next week does.
Or if you read it the other way, you're thinking like, hey, I just had to wait 2 months to watch Shang-Chi and I got it on Disney Plus. So how long
Hmm.
will I have to wait for Eternals? Probably not that long. So
Yeah, I,
who
I, I
knows?
yeah, I am kind of curious about that just because the timetable shift for Shang-Chi was very, very short. But I know that they were kind of using that as a like, hey, it's Disney Plus Day.
Yep.
You
That
know.
and Jungle Cruise were two big plays on their end for that.
Yeah, definitely.
To the point where Shang-Chi also made its digital debut on
Hmm.
Friday as well. That's how quickly they were accelerating. It was like we just have to slam it all out there. So I'd be curious if maybe we would see something with Eternals maybe by Christmas time on Disney Plus. That might be optimistic, but who knows?
Yeah, 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 definitely. I'd say Shang-Chi going to Disney Plus and digital, like to buy and whatnot, that fast has got to be the fastest I've ever seen Disney do anything, as long as I've been paying attention.
Pretty much.
All right, going in that number two, we have Clifford, the big red dog, the big red thing that you were talking about. $16.42 million in its first week. Um, I mean, considering the fact that we're talking about the Clifford going up against Marvel and going up against the Eternals, this ain't that bad to be honest. I'm kind of impressed it even made number two.
Yeah, I mean, when you have these ebbs and flows in terms of family content, if you go several weeks without a new title, families get anxious and they want to see something.
Hmm.
Again, we talked about a little bit last week, with schools being out for Veterans Day, they obviously wanted this movie out early,
True.
to kind of capture that audience. So that's why we have the total of 22 million on here, because for the most part, this movie opened depending upon where you lived, either Tuesday or Wednesday instead of
Oh,
Friday.
okay.
So it actually had a bit of a head start on that. But you also have to keep in mind here, I mean, these are also still very good numbers considering that, like the Paw Patrol movie, this was
Hmm.
day and date on Paramount Plus.
Hmm.
So the fact that we're looking at over $20 million thus far, and it's definitely going to make more and more money as we go through Thanksgiving time,
Yeah.
it's going to do just fine. And
No
maybe
put
that.
no pun intended, but it's probably got a little bit of legs, is what you're saying.
Yes, yes, it has four legs. So
No, and I'm because of my attempt to try to get things watched over the course of this year. This is on my list of stuff to watch. I actually think it looks kind of cute. I'm not gonna lie. Maybe that's the dad in me. You actually went to go see this at the theater.
Yes,
Where would you put this? Because I haven't even looked to see what your final thoughts were on this.
yeah, I've not written up my final thoughts. I think I gave it like 2.5 out of 5.
Okay.
It's a very gentle movie. It's very much aimed at the, under 10 set.
Okay.
You know, it definitely doesn't go too wild with things. So there's that. I mean, it was charming. I actually went to a Saturday afternoon matinee where there were a lot of families with little kids there,
Mm-hmm.
and they all seemed to enjoy it. So there's fine. And of course, for the adults, there's plenty of comedian cameos in here to carry things through. Everybody from John Cleese, David Allen Greer, Horatio Sands, several other SNL people. So yeah, it's amusing, especially if it's a streaming watch. I mean,
Yeah.
you'll find it to be an agreeable time passer. So
Yeah, yeah. It definitely looks like one of those ones. It's clearly we're not the demographic for it, but in the sense that it's not a complete dumpster fire and it's cute. Basically, is what I get out of it.
pretty much.
Yeah. All right, going into the next one here, we have Dune coming in at number three, $5.5 million with only a 29% drop from last week. Still in its HBO run. So kind of with these top five here, we're going into here only 29%. I'd say that we're kind of getting into the what I would say maybe is the people who waited a few weeks to get into the big releases. And obviously they're not. I'm not going to go watch Clifford or something like that. I'd say 29 is actually pretty good, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, again, there hasn't been. I think part of that is because there really hasn't been much. I mean, if you're not interested in the one, maybe two new movies that are coming out each week, you're going to go to the standbys, and I think that's really what constitutes the rest of the top five that
Mm-hmm.
we're going to talk about here. It's hanging on pretty well, especially since again, we're getting near the end of that HBO Max run.
Yep.
It'll actually end this coming Sunday, the 21st. But also it's also very nice because as you can see here, we're at $93 million. So we're within the next week or so, definitely by Thanksgiving weekend, we'll be over $100 million, which will make this the highest grossing Warner Brothers movie during the dual release HBO Max window. Because
Okay.
Godzilla versus Kong, that made just over $100 million. So if Dune gets to say 101 million, that'll be the top movie for them completely during this 2021 experiment.
Up until probably Christmas is what I'm gonna basically what I'm anticipating.
That's what I would hope. I mean, the thing about the Matrix is it's coming out in a very competitive time.
Mm-hmm.
Between that and Spider-Man and Kingsman and
True.
Sing and other big movies. So I think there will probably be a lot of people that will want to go see the Matrix on the big screen. It certainly lends itself toward that.
But it's gonna be a very saturated month, is what you're saying.
Exactly. I mean, whenever it's Christmas time at the movie theaters, all the studios bring out their big guns, and certainly Warner Brothers, they've got a big one in the Matrix that's definitely going to pique a lot
Mm-hmm.
of people's interest. It's just a matter of whether they'll show up for that in theaters versus HBO Max. So
Yeah. Do you picture that there might be even a slight uptick for Dune once the 21st rolls past and it's no longer on HBO Max, or do you think it's gonna just kind of just stay for just a little bit?
I mean, it'll hang out in the lower rungs of the top 10. I mean, the big concern as we get into these next couple of weekends is we've got a lot of movies coming out for Thanksgiving. So that's probably going to limit the amount of theaters that Dune will be able to stick around in. Like I
Mm,
said, it'll do enough to get well over that 100 million mark, but probably not much more beyond that at this point, which again is fine for a movie like this.
yeah, yeah, and considering the pandemic, everything like that,
Yeah, yeah.
because I look at some of these numbers and like if there hadn't been a pandemic, every studio would have been like that was a fail, that was a fail, that was a fail. But I'd say
Yeah,
this is pretty. I'd
adjusted
say this is pretty good.
expectations.
Exactly. All right, coming in at number four, the No Time to Die, $4.62 million. Again, with only a 23% dip, including like you've got on here. People can rent this at home for $20. So I'd say this is a pretty good solid number four for for what we have, for a little bit of something a little bit different and whatnot that we've got at the box office.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's been holding on really well these past few weeks. One milestone here you'll notice we've now reached the 150 million mark
Hmm.
on this movie. Per my calculations, this is only the sixth movie to hit that mark since the start of the pandemic. So it certainly is an elite company at this point. I think I also read this afternoon that it has crossed the $700 million mark worldwide, which means it has topped F9 to be the biggest Hollywood movie since the start of the pandemic as well. So when you adjust the expectations, certainly No Time to Die has performed on the upper bound of those expectations. So
Vin Diesel's not too happy about it. Maybe
well,
that's why Vin Diesel's like, I need to put a thing on Instagram and try to get The Rock back into my franchise.
yep, that's what's gonna be the first $1 billion worldwide movie since the start of COVID. Will be F10 with The Rock and Vin back together again.
Right. I know. And if that, not to get off topic, but I do kind of hope that happens because I really want to see Vin versus The Rock versus Cena versus Statham. Like, I just need a big old, like, you don't get much bigger than that unless it was the 80s and it was like Stallone and Schwarzenegger and Russell and all of that, 80s.
F10 is just going to be a stealth Expendables movie. That's what it's going to be.
I'm okay. I'm completely okay with that. All right, coming in at number 5, we have Venom. Let There Be Carnage, still sticking strong at $4 million. Honestly, I will say that I did not expect Venom to be in the top 5 7 weeks later after its release.
Yeah, I mean we talked about it a couple weeks ago, thinking like, yeah, it's going to drop out of here, and it hasn't. I mean, that being said, it'll definitely drop out of the top 5 next weekend. But the fact that it's held up this long really kind of speaks to how well this movie has done overall in the pandemic. We have
Hmm.
another milestone here in the fact that this actually has crossed $200 million. The only other movie to do that since the start of COVID was Shang-Chi. So Venom is in very elite company with that. The other thing I did want to point out here is we do actually finally have a digital date for this movie. It'll be next Monday, November 23rd, when that drops. Or I'm sorry,
Monday's an
next
odd
Tuesday.
day. I was saying Monday's a weird date.
I'm sorry, yeah, I miscalculated that. It's Tuesday, November 23rd. So it finally has gotten there. Yeah, but it has done very well. I think it's only within $10 million of the original Venom. So, by all accounts, I think Sony's very happy with this.
Hmm.
Certainly, hopefully, bodes well for their other big movies the rest of the year. Hopefully, that they can keep the train going with that.
No, definitely. You say that it'll probably by next week and whatnot. And I'm just like, there's gonna be that one weird thing. All of a sudden, there's just gonna be the completely unsettling thing, and he's just gonna hold on to number 5 and be like, "I've got this. I can still do this." It's gonna have
Venom
those little sticky symbiote hands, be like, "I'm holding on for dear life."
Yeah, who the heck knows? But still, I, yeah, I mean, Sony just has to be happy with how this is done. Certainly, again, all the efforts they did to like, we have to move this up several weeks, you know, get it away from Halloween Kills and move it up in the calendar. That's all paid off. So good
Hmm.
on them.
Oh, definitely. All right. So with that, we've got our top 5 this week is Eternals at 27.5. Number 2, Clifford, the big red dog. The big red dog I never expected to even hit number 2. At $16.42 million. Dune at number 3, 5.5. No Time to Die comes in number 4, 4.62. And Venom, Let There Be Carnage, holding strong at number 5 with $4 million. I don't know what to. This top 5 is kind of mind blowing to me, but that just goes to show the strength of Marvel,
Yep.
and really at this point right now, there is nobody that's like we're gonna try to take on Eternals week 2, basically.
Yeah. As well as just the matter of that, again, we had all these big tentpole movies come out, basically from Venom onward through
Hmm.
Bond, through Halloween, through Dune, through Eternals. So certainly all these movies really just sticking around, that's understandable. Now, granted, we'll definitely have a couple of these fall off the list next weekend because we've got two big movies coming. The first is uh, Will Smith's Oscar bait drama King Richard, where he plays the father of Venus and Serena Williams.
Mm-hmm.
He'll make a big play for that again. Will Smith, king of the box office back in the 90s and 2000s, so never count him out.
In a dramatic role, so they're going to be shooting for that like the pursuit of happiness, like you said, the Oscar bait kind of thing.
Yep, when Will Smith
The,
makes an Oscar movie, he's making an Oscar movie. So,
and you make mention about that, about the whole like especially like the late 90s, because he was like the king of 4th of July.
yep,
But as I think about it, is that the last time he had, to me, that I think the most prominent Oscar bait movie I can think of is when he did Ali.
yep,
And
yep,
and I was like, that was a December movie.
yep. That was Christmas Day.
Yes, I know. I went on Christmas Day to go see that. So, that it just made me think of, it's like, okay, so if Will Smith just wants some good fun, let's just throw it out and have a good time. He throws around 4th of July, but he's like, if I want that Oscar movie, I got to do it in December.
Exactly. So, same for Pursuit of Happiness, Beggar Vance. He knows his wheelhouse. So that'll also be a Warner Brothers HBO Max dual release. So that might have some impacts on it. We're actually getting very close to the end of this HBO Max experiment because after King Richard, it's just The Matrix, and then no more dual releases. So,
that makes me sad.
So
I've enjoyed being able to pick and choose my HBO movies at home.
Yeah, and I'll be very curious. Once this ends, would there be any impacts on people who are like, well, I don't get my new release movies anymore, so I'm not going to hold on to HBO Max. Hopefully, the folks at HBO Max hope that's not the case for many subscribers, but who knows? So,
if you really think about it, for the cost of a ticket, or even cost for two people to go to the movies,
yep.
and for the cost of the subscription for a year, it's definitely would have paid off, for all of those releases, because we're at what, 17, 18 with King Richard. I'd have to look at my numbers.
Yeah, somewhere around that vein, especially if you also count Wonder Woman 84, which wasn't 2021, but it was just a week before. So very close. So we'll keep an eye out on that. But obviously the big thing we'll be talking about next weekend is Ghostbusters Afterlife, one of those long delayed movies from COVID. I remember when the trailer came out, it played in front of Jumanji: The Next Level.
That's
back
right.
in December of 2019. So nearly 2 full years later, we're finally getting this movie. It opens Thursday night. You and I were going to see it Wednesday at an early screening. It's going to be awesome. Hopefully it does well. Certainly Sony's got some big hopes for this. I mean, everywhere I watch on TV now, the marketing is there. They're showing all kinds of stuff. They're doing their darndest trying not to completely spoil the surprises in the movie. But certainly Sony's hoping that this is going to be the big hit of the Thanksgiving holiday, and that the families will come out in droves for it. So I'm going to be very curious to see how well this does.
All I know is I have one low bar hope that will get crushed, because it won't happen. But if it does, I will be that person in the theater that will scream at the top of his lungs and go, yes! And that's if for some reason they've somehow been able to keep Rick Moranis under wraps. And somehow he shows. I don't even care if he shows up for like 3 seconds. I just want him to show up.
Well, I mean, my secret hope would be that if Disney could roll the Brinks trucks up to his house for that Honey, I Shrunk the Kids sequel, Sony could do something to make that happen.
That's where my expectation has come. That exact same thing. If Disney can back the trucks up, so can Sony, kind of thing. So that's currently for me, that's my low bar. Like everybody that is returning, I'm excited to see return for this film and whatnot. That's my low bar, that if it doesn't happen, I'm not going to be disappointed, because I don't expect it to happen. But man, if it does, I'm all for it. So, all right, awesome. So that has been the top 5 movies of the week here. Be sure to come check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd HQ. Join the conversation with us. Comment, like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Also on Facebook, we have the South Dakota Film Community Group. Join the conversation with us there. Filmmakers, film enthusiasts, people who just like film in general. Derrick is very good about letting us know the wonderful anniversaries of just the movies that we grew up with. Because I think the one I just remember seeing here recently was Hoosiers? Hoosiers. Words are hard tonight.
You were saying hosers? Oh man.
Hoosiers? I'm not Canadian today. So yes, check us out there as well. As also too, be sure to check out the podcast. We're on Apple, Spotify, Google, Amazon, Stitcher, and as always on YouTube to check out our wonderful pretty faces. You can also check us out on Patreon, where if you subscribe to our Patreon here, you get some extra episodes and just enjoy supporting the podcast. And Derrick, what else do we got?
Yeah. So yeah, on the Patreon, you guys just released the Eternals episode. Certainly one of the more joyously contentious episodes on the Patreon.
For sure.
I've listened to over half of that episode so far, and that is a very interesting discussion, watching you guys argue through that movie. So yeah, be sure to check that out. There will also be a Ghostbusters Afterlife episode coming in the near future here, so listen for that. This week you guys are doing Stripes on the main feed, which will be very exciting too, continuing the Reitman trend. And also, if you are watching this when this drops on Monday night, be sure to go to the Backlot Facebook page and enter Backlot's current giveaway to win 2 tickets to the state screening of The Room with special guest Mark himself, Greg Sestero, this Friday at the State Theater. Winners will be announced Wednesday, so if you haven't done it yet and you want to join a completely sold out, packed, sure to be fun screening of The Room, be sure to do so. So
this will be an experience for me because I have never seen The Room before. So we'll see how much of a train wreck this is.
I mean, I'm going to be very curious, because obviously you'll be going into the room that is the state to watch The Room, the movie, with a bunch of people who are very aware of all its unusual lines of dialogue and cult moments and all that stuff. So you're going to get immersed in the fun cultiness of this movie. So I can't wait.
I'm definitely looking forward to that. That's where I'm sitting there going, you know what? I've never seen The Room. This is the perfect opportunity for me to go see The Room because I'm gonna be in a room full of 2 types of people. People like you who know and understand, and people like me who are gonna be, what am I getting myself into? And all of us are going to enjoy the living hell out of it.
Yep, absolutely.
All right. Well, that has been the Backlot Backlot box office. Wow, I cannot talk tonight. You'd think I would do this for a living. Be sure to come check us out. Otherwise, we will check you out here next week. Everybody, have yourself a good evening.
Good night.
Bye.